The cheerful and banana-loving Yoshiko is an idiot beyond belief, scoring zeros on multiple-choice tests and being socially inept. Her childhood friend Akuru tells her to study and stop being an idiot so she can get a job. She comments that she can just get married anyway, and Akuru retorts that nobody would marry a girl like her. Yoshiko says he just doesn't understand girls, which irritates him so much that he punches her in the face. The next day, Akuru goes to wake up Yoshiko at her house.
Yeah.
Her mother, Yoshi, apologizes that her daughter is such an idiot and is grateful to Akuru that he looks after her. She asks if he could marry Yoshiko one day, and he replies that humans don't fall in love with monkeys. He reassures her that as a last resort, they can get Yoshiko to commit a misdemeanor and have her committed to a psych ward. At school, they meet Sayaka, one of their friends. She wonders if Yoshiko is good at something else, such as cheering people up. They end up discovering that Akuru has no friends. His only contacts are Yoshiko and his parents. Sayaka takes pity on him and decides to be his friend. That evening, Yoshiko pastes her face all over a lewd magazine, hoping to tempt Akuru, but the next morning, he irritatingly stomps all over it. They are stopped at school by Fuki, the head of public morals, who confiscates the magazine. Yoshiko is stunned by Fuki's large chest and offers her a meager 5 yen and a banana for her to cop a feel. Akuru performs a lethal uppercut on Yoshiko to get her to behave. Yoshiko plays with children at a park, forcing Akuru to drag her away. The boys swear to defend Yoshiko, but they are dismayed to learn that Yoshiko is a gigantic idiot, and they remark that people like her are the reason the country is going under. On the way to school, they encounter Ryuichi, a delinquent. He is provoked by Yoshiko, but he notices that Sayaka is quite cute and tries to flirt with her instead. Yoshiko slaps him and confides that she knows what it's like to have nobody to play with. Ryuichi apologizes that he is an idiot, but Yoshiko replies that she too is a huge idiot, and the two reconcile. They drop by Akuru's house to meet his little sister, Ruri, who ends up to be just as big of an idiot as Yoshiko. But it's much worse because she actually tries studying. Akuru says he'll take care of her even if she's an idiot, causing her to burst into tears and run away. But Sayaka is there to comfort her. The next day, Fuki has developed a crush on Akuru. She wants to use her status as a disciplinary committee president to freely frisk Akuru all over. But Yoshiko senses she has lewd intentions. After she gets her out of the way, she tries to aggressively leap onto Akuru, but she hits her head on a locker door and loses consciousness. Akuru and Sayaka visit Yoshiko's house, and Yoshi is worried that her retirement plan will go up in smoke if those two end up getting married. She accuses Sayaka of being an easy girl and challenges her to show her panties. And if it's anything but a childish pair of underwear, then she's a threat. She ends up agreeing, and they confirm that she is safe to be friends with Yoshiko remarking that the cat print was quite cute. The next day, Yoshiko goes to the park to play with the kids, where they're chased by a wild dog. She is excited at how big it is and decides to ride it around, to the dismay of the children. As she rides off on her new dog, Nozomi begins admiring her. Later, Yoshiko is moved by how delicious a banana from Sato Farms is, and drags Sayaka with her on an hours-long walk to the provinces, completely ignoring the fact that trains exist. At a convenience store, Sayaka asks Yoshiko to buy them drinks, but she ends up spending all their money buying plushies of the town mascot instead, and they are forced to walk the rest of the way. They finally meet Mr. Sato, who thanks them for coming all this way. Yoshiko wants to leave moments later, and Sayaka is forced to beg for train fare home. After Akuru seems displeased over his test results, Yoshiko decides to cheer him up the same way her mother does with her father, by placing him in handcuffs. She starts to spoil him by pushing him against her chest, but he knocks her out with a headbutt. He tries searching for the key under her shirt, but he is seen by Ruri, who freaks out. Yoshiko and the playground kids head to a department store ranger show. The villain takes Nozomi as a hostage, prompting Yoshiko to climb on stage to rescue her. Mamoru and Tadashi go on stage too, fearing that Nozomi will become an even bigger idiot under Yoshiko's influence. They attack the villain and angrily whisper at him to take a hint, and he pretends to die. To their dismay, Nozomi thanks Yoshiko anyway. The next day, Yoshiko is called to a meeting with Atsuko, her homeroom teacher. She attempts to teach her some basic literary exercises, but Yoshiko destroys her with facts and logic, causing Atsuko to realize she knows nothing at all. While Akuru tries to tell Atsuko not to fall for Yoshiko's tricks, the latter ends up throwing up because she ate too many bananas. Later, Akuru finally agrees to take Ryuichi in as his pet dog. Ryuichi is livid, as he had been following Yoshiko's teachings in the belief that Akuru would become his friend. That night, Yoshiko drags Fuki and Sayaka with her to Akuru's room to figure out what to give him for his birthday. They sneak their way in after being nearly impaled by a trap. Sayaka frantically tries to keep their operation covert by placing earplugs and an eye mask on Akuru to counter Yoshiko's loud shouting and Sayaka's flash photography. After a struggle over one of Akuru's boxers, they accidentally knock out Ruri, who had come to check on the commotion. Yoshiko then decides she is tired and goes to sleep in Akuru's bed. He is understandably angry when he wakes up, but Sayaka ends up scolding them instead, frustrated that Yoshiko and Fuki took it too far. Yoshiko invites Akuru and Ruri to watch the Preacher movie in theaters. To keep her from disturbing the other guests, Akuru tapes her mouth shut. He begins surprisingly enjoying the movie, but Yoshiko continues to be annoying, so he tapes her entire body. He accidentally scolds Ruri, thinking it was her being loud, and Yoshiko manages to break free from her restraints. They end up causing an even bigger commotion, prompting ushers to kick them out of the theater. Akuru knocks them both unconscious and carries them out. When the pair awaken, they think it was all a dream. The next day, Yoshiko invites everyone out to the beach using tickets she won at the shopping district lottery. They head out to buy swimsuits, where they learn that Akuru has no intention of going anywhere. Sayaka reasons that they just want to be his friends, and he replies that aside from her, he has no intention of being friends with weirdos. She points out that he is weird himself, and if he doesn't go, Yoshiko will end up being his only friend, and this finally convinces him to go. They meet up the next day where Yoshiko sees Fuki as a threat to her retirement plan. She draws nipples on her bikini and threatens to cut holes in it. She continues to be a nuisance, but Akuru soon arrives to put an end to her antics, scolding Yoshiko for causing a disturbance even though she's 40 years old. She ditches her body temperature bra and escapes, while Sayaka wonders if it's okay for her to come out. They finally arrive at the beach, where Yoshiko puts a stop to Fuki's attempts at seduction by burying her in sand. She's proud of herself for finally dampening Fuki's large chest. When this does not affect her, Yoshiko buries Sayaka in the sand as well, forming 2 huge mounds on her chest. Frustrated that not even this dissuades Fuki, Yoshiko begins forming a large sand pillar over Fuki's groin area, a terrifying prospect. Akuru becomes fed up with their commotion and puts a stop to it, kicking the sand schlong down. Later in the hot springs, Yoshiko mentions that Akuru has a small member, based on what she saw as a child. Fuki reasons that it must have grown more monstrous over time. To confirm their theories, they decide to peep on him. As expected, Akuru hurls a giant club that sends Yoshiko flying, but he decides to let Fuki go. A few days later, Akuru is excited to spend 2 days without Yoshiko, who has gone to visit her grandparents. She leaves behind a dog so that Akuru won't feel lonely. Although annoyed that a dog got dumped on him, he finds that it's actually more intelligent than Yoshiko. Yoshiko returns home earlier than expected and catches Akuru befriending the dog. He says there is no way he would be friends with an animal, which hurts the dog's feelings. He says that he doesn't mean it, and in response, the dog lifts its paw like in the Western movie they watched, and the two come to an understanding. During the Bon Festival, the neighborhood association plans to keep Yoshiko away, as she always takes attention away from their dance. To their dismay, she appears in a Brazilian carnival costume, and they get caught up in the moment and dance with her. The next day, it's discovered that the dog has no name. To Sayaka's dismay, Yoshiko wants to keep calling the dog, Dog. Akuru says they should name the dog George, and with neither willing to concede, they decide to have the dog choose what name he should have. Not wanting to hurt either of their feelings, the dog runs away. The two reconcile, agreeing it will be called Dog for now. The next day, Yoshiko annoys a trio of gal girls, Akane, Ki, and Kuroko. When they decide to study so that she will leave them alone, Yoshiko condescendingly remarks that gals don't study and accuses Akane of being an idiot like her. Akane denies this and replies that she doesn't get zeros out of 100, but tens, and this still makes her an idiot. The trio decide to leave, but Yoshiko slowly starts chasing after them. To get rid of her, Ki tricks her into showing them how to play hide-and-seek, prompting Yoshiko to hide. However, she goes missing in school for 3 days, and they learn from Sayaka that Yoshiko is still hiding. The trio look for her in a panic, knowing she hasn't eaten, bathed, or slept for 3 days. They finally find her in a gutter and yell at her to go home. Yoshiko says she had fun, but the trio reply that they will never play with her again. Later, Ruri celebrates her birthday with Atsuko and his friends. When he gives her a book about finding success in life without a degree, she shuts herself in a room and demands a better brother. Yoshiko takes an interest in the gals trio's love life, and they point to Kuroko, the only one with a boyfriend. When they learn that she's never kissed, held his hand, or told him she likes him, Yoshiko pushes her to call him right away, with the surprising approval of Ki and Akane. Embarrassed, she finds an isolated spot to call him, and afterwards, Yoshiko announces to the rest of the school how much of a pure maiden she is. Meanwhile, Sayaka confronts Fuki to ask her to stop stalking Akuru. To her dismay, Fuki is too far gone with her delusions, and when she breaks the news that Akuru views her as a crazy maniac, she slips into a depression. Sayaka quickly says that it was all a joke, and the cycle of stalking continues. The next day, Yoshiko brings Dog with her to meet Sayaka's Pomeranian, Palm, whom Dog instantly falls in love with, but Yoshiko misunderstands and thinks the two want to fight. When Palm licks Dog's paw, he is instantly defeated and succumbs to puppy love. Yoshiko volunteers herself to be the committee head for the cultural festival, but Akane says that she's been looking forward to it all year and refuses to have Yoshiko ruin it. Akuru says that it's a good opportunity for Yoshiko to face her own idiocy, leading to friction between him and the gals. Akuru calls Akane ugly, enough to drive her to tears, further antagonizing himself. In the end, Akane is put in charge. Later, they realize they are behind schedule, and at Yoshiko's suggestion, they decide to sneakily spend the night at school. Instead of working, they end up playing video games until dawn. They eventually finish preparing their class's maid cafe, where Yoshiko makes fun of Akuru's outfit. She later sees Fuki rejecting a boy, and sympathizing with his plight, convinces Fuki to let him cop a feel as a consolation. Fuki agrees just this once, but when she sees Akuru approaching, she performs a Frankensteiner on the boy instead, who happens to like it anyway. The next day, the gal trio joins Yoshiko and her friends out for karaoke. There, Sayaka inadvertently gets drunk on her beer fumes, and she starts complaining about her flat chest. She unbuttons her shirt so they can laugh at her, but when the gal trio praises her chest, she reveals that she just patted it to the brim. She lies down to sulk, while Yoshiko christens her chest the Sayaka Plains. Yoshiko finds Akane trying to pierce her ears so she can dress prettier, because in her words, "I want a boyfriend so damn bad." Yoshiko understands and tries to make it easier on her by holding her hand, but Akane ends up prematurely piercing her ear. Having had enough, she decides to do the other ear another day. Later, Yoshiko rides atop Dog, beating a motorcyclist on a dangerous mountain road in a race, who cannot believe he lost to an animal. Afterwards, she visits the park to play dolls with the playground kids. She weaves a story about a girl named Rebecca, who after her boyfriend Michael dies in a freak Godzilla-related accident, resigns herself to being used as a plaything by Godzilla. Nozomi revives Michael in a miracle, while the two boys get tired and decide to leave. Later, Fuki attempts to get closer with Akuru by appealing to his sister. Yoshi catches her in the act, but it's revealed that she's been doing the same thing for years. She snatches away Fuki's bra and underwear, undermining her as a stalker exhibitionist that you should stay away from. In the confusion, Yoshiko tries to reveal that Fuki is indeed going commando, but she is surprised to find that she still has them. Yoshiko realizes that Fuki slipped out Ruri's underwear and put it on herself, earning her respect. Later, Ruri returns home to realize her underwear is missing. Yoshiko finds Ruri depressed over another failed test. She tries to tell her that she can do something else, but nothing specific comes to mind. They try a variety of activities, from jumping rope, sewing, and cooking, but Ruri fails spectacularly at all of them. She decides to learn how to ride a bike, but Yoshiko keeps getting distracted by a dragonfly, causing Ruri to crash. Despite these setbacks, Ruri resolves to keep trying to learn how to ride a bike, spending the entire day crashing, but always getting back up again. The next day, Yoshiko is dejected that her favorite drink, the Triple Banana Frappuccino Deluxe, is sold out at all nearby cafes. Ryuichi, whom she does not seem to remember, volunteers to help her find one. He soon returns badly injured, with information that students from Dick High purchased the last Banana Deluxe, but he reports that they dumped it out without a second thought. Yoshiko, angry that the Banana Deluxe was wasted, and not that Ryuichi was beaten to an inch of his life, travels to Dick High. She eliminates the henchmen by shoving bananas down their throat, violently shoving 4 inside the leader, Sudo. She stands satisfied, having avenged her precious Banana Deluxe. The next day, Dog, left on his own, finds a flower to give to Poem. Along the way, he rescues a small boy from being swept away in a river, and later pushes another out of the way of a speeding vehicle. After being chased away by the mother, he finds himself inside a bank, where he foils a robbery attempt by himself. To calm a crying child, he decides to give the flower to her instead. He leaves, hailed as a hero and a good boy. Sayaka asks if Akuru and Yoshiko are childhood friends, prompting him to recall those painful memories. 10 years ago, he met Yoshiko after she moved in next door. She instantly makes herself a nuisance by constantly trying to play with him. He tries to silence her with a banana, leading to her eventual obsession with all things banana. She assumes that he has feelings for her since she gave her something so delicious and begins chasing him all across town. She eventually catches him and kisses him, leading him to unleash a powerful uppercut, sending her flying. To his exasperation, she simply returns 30 minutes later, taunting that his weak punch couldn't keep her down for long. He trains like a madman for the next few weeks, hoping to unleash a punch so powerful she won't be able to get up. One day, he collapses from a cold while training, but Yoshiko spends all day caring for him. To his horror, his mom tells him that Yoshiko kissed him all night long to transfer the fever over to her. Desperate to get her to leave, he asks her what she hates most in the world, and she replies, someone covered in poop, and perverts. He decides to be as perverted as possible to potentially force her away, but she unexpectedly starts crying. She remarks that she just wasn't ready for his sudden aggression, and now that she is, she decides to show him her panties. Back in the present, he remarks that his feelings for Yoshiko have not changed in 10 years. He still wants to punch her so bad. Yoshiko flashes her panties, revealing she's wearing the same one from that incident 10 years ago, prompting Akuru to deliver the most powerful punch of his life, sending Yoshiko hurtling through the sky, a true idiot among idiots.